Oh, hey, how's it going? So, today we're going to be talking about Steve Roach and his album Structures from Silence from 1984. And so, Steve Roach taught himself how to play the synthesizer, and this album he recorded during 1983, 1984. It's one of his very famous albums. It has three tracks on it, um, which is Reflections in Suspension, Quiet Friend, and Structures from Silence. Um, so it took him a few months to actually record Structures from Silence. He kept manipulating the structure of the song night and day, and then finally he went into the studio and recorded it on a 30-minute take. Like I think it was like 28-minute take, just under 30 minutes. But he recorded this album with a Oberheim OB8 synthesizer, Oberheim DSX sequencer, and also a DSX sequencer. And that's essentially the instruments that he used on this album. Uh, I personally enjoy um, Reflections in Suspension. It's 16 minutes long, and it's if you're going to listen to this album, you want to go to a spacious area, like a public area, like a library where you can sit down. So as you know, Brian Eno, he coined the phrase ambient as a type of music that you listen to in the background. And this essentially is that type of music. It's an ambient release. And even though Brian Eno coined the phrase in the late 70s, Steve Roach wrote this in the early 80s, and they labeled it as New Age, which, okay, maybe it is New Age, but I think it's better described as ambient music. And um, so, you know, I think that people in the 80s were kind of like, how are we supposed to describe this music? We don't even, it doesn't even have a category. How it's otherworldly. It sounds so unique, so original, that we can't place it in rock, we can't place it in jazz, we can't place it in blues or pop. Well, let's call it New Age. It's the New Age, right? Well, maybe. But I think, in my opinion, Steve Roach, uh, it's an ambient genre, and it should be called ambient because it is exactly that. It's listening to the music. It envelopes the entire place that you're listening to. The environment that you're in. It's the music that you can listen to anywhere and not even recognize that you're listening to it, and yet you enjoy listening to it. So let's review the music, right? Reflections in Suspension, the first track on the album, is, in my opinion, my favorite on the album. The two other ones, Quiet Friend and Structures from Silence, are good too. I do like Quiet Friend, which is 13 minutes long. And then Structures from Silence is 28 minutes long, which is good, but in my opinion, I enjoy Reflections in Suspension. For instance, Reflections in Suspension, the first 30 seconds of the song, you can't quite hear it. But by the time 30 seconds goes by, you can hear these like diamond shaped objects, like for instance the artwork, right? There's this spatial, black spatial space, like time and space, and within this time and space there's these diamonds of different colors, mainly red, green, and bluish. But as Reflections in Suspension moves on, you can hear, like for instance, a diamond forming, and then as soon as it appears, it disappears and goes away and reappears in a different spatial place. And, as the music goes, this is the tempo, kind of these diamonds reappearing, and kind of like, how Walt Disney did Fantasia, and the composer said when you're sitting in the music hall, listening to the music, there's images that come to your mind as you listen to the music. Same with this. There's these, for instance, it makes it really easy to think about these diamond shapes because it's the artwork of the album, of this black spatial space, and with these diamonds appearing and disappearing, dissolving and reappearing in different places. Do 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 do. Um. Well, and when you take it apart, when you take apart the song and listen to it intently, you can hear about the 8 minute mark. The background synths are gradually getting higher and higher, and those diamond shapes are keep reappearing and disappearing, and then after about 8 minutes, it the grandiose synthesizer sounds, background sounds, behind the diamonds, kind of diminishes, and then the diamonds are reappearing and disappearing at different focal points. Is back to going back to primitive sound, right? Kind of like around the 8 minute mark, it's like a crescendo, right? It builds to this crescendo, and then from 8 minutes down, back down to the remainder 16, 8 minutes after, the huge background sound is taken away, and all that you can hear again are the diamonds appearing and disappearing and reappearing in different spatial nodes, right? And if you sit back and listen, and you're looking at, let's say you're in a library and looking at the architecture, or you're in a park looking at the trees, you're taking it all in, and you're taking it all the diamonds that are reappearing and disappearing at the same time, taking it all in as you're listening to it on your headphones. Now that is what is Reflections in Suspension. It's quite a beautiful composition, 16 minutes long, and in my opinion, the best. All right, so the next song is Quiet Friend, which is a 13-minute, just over 13 minutes long. With this Quiet Friend, this composition starts off with synths right away, and it's a one slow synth going forward, and then a much stronger supporting synth um, comes behind this single synth sound, and about halfway through, it's this very slow moving synth composition, and about, I'd say, about 4 minutes, or about just under 4 minutes, there's these interesting little once again, like diamonds coming out of the spacious area, and just like a quiet friend is kind of not quite sure if it wants to come out and play, in and by the end of the composition, the synths go back and are suspended, and you can hear these little, like small little diamonds coming out, soundscapes of, and this is like almost like the quiet friend coming out to play. And in essence, you're listening to this composition with these slow synths coming through, and this background synth coming to support the small sounding synth as the song begins. And then about halfway through, and the synths go away, and there's these small little soundscapes like diamonds coming through, and it's like this quiet friend was waiting until the very end to come and play out, and play out there its beautiful composition. I wonder if that makes sense. Does it? I guess you just have to listen to it, because it seems to me, quiet friend, it's kind of like there's this music, there's background of music that is in support of the quiet friend, and then at the end, after the synths are like almost saying to the quiet friend, come, show yourself, well, then that's when the last 3 minutes is beautiful, because it you can hear like these diamond shaped sounds coming out, and making a melodious structure of sounds, and that, in my view, is Quiet Friend. You should listen to it yourself and see what you think about it, because it's the second best song on this 3-song album. All right, and on to Structures from Silence, which in terms of this album, this entire album is named after. It's 28 minutes long, and it's a very subdued, ambient, quiet composition. And the best way to really listen to it is like sit in in your favorite chair and read your favorite book, and put it on lightly, like not full blast, but just lightly turn on Structures from Silence for 28 minutes and read your book. And as you're reading your book, you will notice the kind of structure of the song coming and going and coming and going. And yet it is very a delicate piece of composition. It's not, there's no crescendos or big climaxes in Structures from Silence. It's essentially a 20-minute, almost meditative sounding composition, which is best experienced in the background. And reading a book, or just putting it on lightly in the car as you drive around. And then, before you know it, 28 minutes will go by, and you will notice from time and again that the sounding of the structures from Silence is actually a beautiful composition, and one which Steve Roach took much time and care, many months in structuring and creating. And here we have it on this album from 1984, and it's a beautiful composition. Ultimately, these 3 songs are very good. My favorite song is the first one, Reflections in Suspension, and then I do like Quiet Friend, where it begins with the synths, and at the very end you can hear those diamond-shaped soundscapes coming out of the darkness towards you, and you realize, what are these structures coming towards me? Well, it's the quiet friend that waited until the very end to show itself. And then Structures from Silence is a beautiful, subdued, ambient opus by Steve Roach. And you truly need like 28 minutes, a half an hour, to enjoy Structures from Silence. But if you do, and you get the time, and you have the patience to listen, then you will be rewarded more than you can imagine. So I appreciate you listening to this review. Giving this my rating on this album, 1 out of 10. 1 being absolutely horrible, 10 being a masterpiece. I would probably give it 9 out of 10. Yes, that's correct. 9 out of 10. That's what I personally think this album deserves. So if you haven't heard of Steve Roach before, go out and listen to him. And listen to this album. If you've known this album for a long time, which of the 3 songs do you like more? And which ones do you like less? Or do you like them all same? Let me know. And if you enjoyed this review, please give me a like. And I would love to hear your comments on if you heard this album before. If you haven't and you're planning to, please let me know. I love listening to this type of music, and especially the electronic genre of music. Please subscribe for more reviews, and I'll see you in the next review. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.